15 signs. You're an INFJ, the world's rarest personality type. Have you ever felt like you don't quite fit in anywhere? Like you see the world differently than everyone else around you? Like you can read people's emotions before they even speak, but struggle to understand yourself? If you're nodding along, you might just be one of the rarest personality types in the world. Welcome to the enigmatic world of the INFJ, a personality type so rare that only 1 to 3% of the population possesses it. I'm host name, and today we're diving deep into the 15 unmistakable signs that you're an INFJ. But this isn't just another personality test video. We're going on a journey of self-discovery that might finally help you understand why you've always felt like you're living life on a different frequency than everyone else. Before we begin this journey together, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, if you're an INFJ, you're going to want to be part of this community of rare souls we're building here. Now, are you ready to discover if you're one of the world's rarest personality types? Let's dive in. Segment 1, the foundation. First, let's establish what INFJ actually means. INFJ stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. But these 4 letters represent so much more than just categories. They represent a way of experiencing life. That's fundamentally different from most people. Think of it this way. Imagine you're at a party. Most people are energized by the crowd, the music, the conversations. But you're observing. You're noticing the person sitting alone in the corner who looks sad. You're picking up on the tension between 2 friends that nobody else seems to see. You're absorbing everyone's emotions like a sponge. And by the end of the night, you're completely drained. This is the INFJ experience. You're not antisocial. You're just wired differently. You process the world through your intuition and emotions, and that processing runs deep. Storytelling moment. Let me tell you about Sarah, a viewer who wrote to me last month. She said, "I always thought something was wrong with me. I could predict how conversations would go before they happened. I could sense when my friends were upset even when they were smiling. I felt like I was living with a superpower that nobody else understood, and it was exhausting." Sarah discovered she was an INFJ at age 28, and everything finally made sense. Today we're going to help you have that same moment of clarity. Before we jump into the signs, I want you to do something. In the comments below, write just one word that describes how you feel in large groups of people. Don't think about it. Just write the first word that comes to mind. I'll be reading every single comment, and I guarantee you'll see patterns that will blow your mind. Sign 1, the emotional sponge. Sign number 1, and this might hit close to home. You absorb other people's emotions like a sponge absorbs water. But this isn't just empathy. This is something deeper. This is feeling someone else's sadness in your body, experiencing their anxiety as if it were your own, celebrating their joy so intensely that it brings tears to your eyes. I remember talking to an INFJ named Marcus, who told me about riding the subway to work every morning. He said, "I could tell you the life story of half the people in my train car just from their body language and energy. The woman with the tear-stained makeup who was probably getting divorced. The teenager with the fake smile who was being bullied at school. The businessman who was about to lose his job but hadn't told his family yet." This emotional absorption can be overwhelming. You might find yourself avoiding crowded places not because you don't like people, but because feeling everyone's emotions simultaneously is exhausting. Here's a quick test. Think about the last time you watched a movie. Did you cry at parts that other people found only mildly sad? Did you feel genuinely angry at the villain, not just entertained? Did you need time to decompress after an intense film because the emotions felt so real? If you're nodding along, that's your INFJ superpower and your kryptonite showing itself. Pause the video for a second and think, what's the most intense emotional absorption experience you've ever had? Was it with a friend, a stranger, or even a fictional character? Keep that memory in mind as we continue. Sign 2, the future predictor. Sign number 2 might sound like science fiction, but it's very real for INFJs. You can predict how situations will unfold with uncanny accuracy. This isn't magic, it's your intuitive function working overtime. Your brain is constantly processing patterns, body language, tone of voice, and environmental cues at a subconscious level, then presenting you with a feeling about what's going to happen. Let me share Emma's story. She's an INFJ who worked in corporate consulting. She told me, in meetings, I could tell within the first 5 minutes whether a project would succeed or fail, not based on the numbers or the presentations, but based on the energy in the room, the way people looked at each other, the words they didn't say. My colleagues thought I was psychic, but I was just picking up on patterns they weren't noticing. This predictive ability extends to relationships too. You might meet someone and immediately know whether you'll be friends or sense that a couple is going to break up long before they realize it themselves. Here's something fascinating. INFJs often report having prophetic dreams or sudden knowing about future events. Have you ever had a dream that later came true? Or a sudden feeling that you needed to call someone, only to find out they desperately needed to talk? This sign manifests in daily life too. You probably know how conversations will go before having them, can predict plot twists in movies before they happen, sense when someone is about to quit their job or end a relationship, feel uneasy about situations that others find perfectly normal, and later discover your instinct was right. If this resonates with you, I want you to start keeping a prediction journal. Write down your gut feelings about situations. Then check back in a few weeks to see how accurate you were. I bet you'll surprise yourself. Sign 3, the contradictory soul. Sign number 3 is what I call the INFJ paradox. You're simultaneously the most social antisocial person you know, or the most logical emotional person. INFJs are walking contradictions, and if you're one, you've probably confused people your entire life, including yourself. You might be deeply empathetic but also brutally logical, craving deep connections while needing extensive alone time, highly sensitive but also incredibly strong, idealistic about humanity but cynical about human nature, confident in your insights but plagued by self-doubt. I once interviewed an INFJ named David who perfectly captured this contradiction. He said, "I can give the most inspiring pep talk to a friend who's struggling, helping them see their worth and potential with crystal clarity. But then I go home and spend 3 hours overthinking whether I said something stupid in a conversation from 2 weeks ago." This contradiction extends to your social life. You might be the person everyone comes to for advice. You're known as wise, insightful, and understanding. But then you disappear for weeks, needing to recharge your emotional batteries. Picture this. It's Friday night. Part of you wants to go out with friends, connect deeply, have meaningful conversations. But another part of you wants to stay home with a book, a cup of tea, and complete silence. Both desires are equally strong, and you can't figure out which one is the real you. The truth is, both are the real you. INFJs contain multitudes, and that's not a flaw, it's a superpower that allows you to understand and connect with different types of people. What's your biggest INFJ contradiction? Are you logical but emotional? Social but solitary? Strong but sensitive? Share in the comments. I love seeing how this paradox plays out differently for each person. Sign 4, the perfectionist procrastinator. Sign number 4 hits deep. You're a perfectionist who procrastinates, and it's driving you crazy. This isn't laziness. This is your INFJ brain, being so concerned with creating something perfect that you delay starting until you have the perfect plan, the perfect conditions, or the perfect inspiration. Here's how this plays out. You have a project due. Instead of just starting, you spend hours researching the perfect approach. You create detailed outlines, gather all possible resources, envision the final product in vivid detail. But then, you don't start. Because what if it's not as perfect as the version in your head? Meet Jennifer, an INFJ writer who shared her story with me. She said, "I spent 3 months researching and outlining a novel. I had character backgrounds, plot structures, thematic elements, all perfectly planned. But I couldn't write the first sentence, because I was terrified it wouldn't live up to my vision. Meanwhile, I was beating myself up for being lazy, when actually, I was working harder than anyone, just not in a way that looked productive." This perfectionist procrastination affects every area of life. You have amazing business ideas but never launch them because they need to be perfect first. You want to reach out to old friends but craft the perfect message in your head. Instead of just sending a simple hello, you have creative projects that exist fully formed in your imagination, but never make it to reality. Here's the thing about INFJ perfectionism. It's not really about the end product. It's about your deep need for authenticity and meaning. You don't want to create something mediocre because you feel like you'd be betraying your vision and your values. If this is you, try what I call the good enough to start rule. Give yourself permission to create something 70% perfect, knowing you can refine it later. You're imperfect. First draft is probably better than most people's final version anyway. What's something you've been planning perfectly but never starting? Drop it in the comments, no judgment here. Just understanding from fellow INFJs who get it. Sign 5, the door slam phenomenon. Sign number 5 is perhaps the most misunderstood INFJ trait, the infamous door slam. People think INFJs are always gentle and patient. What they don't realize is that you have limits. And when those limits are crossed repeatedly, you don't explode, you disappear. The INFJ door slam isn't about anger or revenge. It's about self-preservation. You've probably given someone countless chances, made excuses for their behavior, tried to help them grow. But when you finally realize they're not going to change, and they're damaging your well-being, you quietly but definitively cut them out of your life. Let me tell you about Rachel's door slam story. She had a best friend who was constantly negative, always complaining but never taking advice, emotionally draining every conversation. Rachel tried for 2 years to be supportive. She listened for hours, offered help, made suggestions, but nothing changed. One day, Rachel realized she was dreading her friend's calls. She was losing sleep worrying about problems that weren't hers to solve. That's when she made the decision. She quietly stepped back, stopped initiating contact, and when her friend reached out, Rachel was polite but distant. People called Rachel cold, said she'd changed. But Rachel had finally learned to protect her emotional energy. The door slam happens because INFJs have what psychologists call high emotional permeability. You feel everything deeply, including other people's problems and emotions. When someone consistently brings toxicity into your life, it's not just annoying, it's actually damaging to your mental and emotional health. The door slam isn't cruel, it's necessary. It's your intuitive wisdom recognizing that some people are emotional vampires and you need to protect yourself. You might be approaching a door slam if you feel drained after every interaction with someone. You make excuses to avoid their calls or messages. You've had the same conversation about their problems multiple times. You feel guilty for wanting distance from them. You're losing yourself trying to save them. If you've door slammed someone and felt guilty about it, let me tell you, protecting your emotional well-being isn't selfish. It's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup. Have you ever had to door slam someone? How did it feel? Were you judged for it? Share your story in the comments. This community understands what others might not. Sign 6, the meaning seeker. Sign number 6. You're constantly searching for meaning and purpose in everything you do. Small talk isn't just boring for you. It's almost painful. While others can happily chat about the weather or weekend plans, you're internally screaming, but what does it all mean? You don't just want a job, you want a calling. You don't just want relationships, you want soul connections. You don't just want to exist, you want to make a difference. Picture this scenario. You're at a networking event. Everyone's exchanging business cards and talking about their quarterly reports. Meanwhile, you're wondering, what's the point of this work if it doesn't make the world better? Why are we all pretending this matters when there are bigger questions about life and purpose that we never discuss? This meaning-seeking drives every aspect of your life. Career choices. You'd rather earn less doing meaningful work than earn more doing something that feels empty. Relationships. You crave deep, authentic connections over surface-level social networks. Hobbies. You're drawn to activities that feed your soul, not just pass time. Conversations. You want to discuss ideas, dreams, fears, and philosophies. I once spoke with an INFJ named Alex, who left a 6-figure corporate job to become a teacher. Everyone thought he was crazy, but Alex told me I was dying inside. Every day felt meaningless. Now I make half the salary, but I'm helping shape young minds. I finally feel like my life has purpose. This meaning-seeking can be isolating. You might feel like you're the only one asking the deep questions, the only one unsatisfied with surface-level living. But here's the truth. The world needs your depth. Your search for meaning isn't naive idealism. It's the driving force behind positive change in the world. Most innovations, artistic breakthroughs, and social movements started with someone asking, "What if there's a better way?" If you're struggling to find meaning in your current situation, start small. Find one way each day to align your actions with your values. Volunteer, mentor someone, create something beautiful, or simply have one meaningful conversation. What gives your life the most meaning? What makes you feel like you're making a difference? Share in the comments. Your answer might inspire someone else's journey. Sign 7, the people reader. Sign number 7 is almost supernatural. You can read people like open books. You notice things others miss. The slight hesitation before someone says they're fine. The way someone's shoulders tense when a certain topic comes up. The fake smile that doesn't reach their eyes. This isn't just good observation skills. This is your intuitive function combined with your feeling preference, creating a sophisticated emotional radar system. Maria, an INFJ nurse, shared this story with me. I could tell which patients were scared even when they acted brave, which ones were in more pain than they admitted, and which families were struggling with difficult decisions. My colleagues thought I was just experienced, but I was reading emotional cues they couldn't see. Your people-reading ability shows up in various ways. You know when someone is lying, even if you can't prove it. You can sense relationship problems between couples before they admit them. You pick up on personality conflicts in group settings. You notice when someone is putting on a facade. You can tell when someone needs support, even if they haven't asked. But this gift comes with a price. Sometimes you wish you couldn't see through people's masks. Sometimes you wish you could just take things at face value instead of always sensing the deeper currents underneath. You might be in a group where everyone's laughing and having fun, but you can sense the undercurrents. Who's feeling left out? Who's pretending to enjoy themselves? Who's dealing with something heavy? While everyone else is having a good time, you're carrying the emotional weight of the entire group. Here's something that might blow your mind. Your people reading? Accuracy is probably over 90%. Next time you have a strong intuitive hit about someone, write it down. Don't act on it, just note it. Then see if you're proven right over time. You'll be amazed at your accuracy. If people have ever called you too sensitive, or told you you're reading too much into things, let me validate you. You're not imagining it. Your intuitive radar is real and it's remarkably accurate. What's the most accurate read you've ever had on someone? Did they eventually prove you right? Share your story, but keep it anonymous to protect others' privacy. Transition and mid-video engagement. We're just past the halfway point. And if you're recognizing yourself in these signs, you're probably starting to feel that sense of relief that comes with finally understanding yourself. Before we continue, I want to hear from you. In the comments, tell me, which of these first 7 signs hit closest to home? Which one made you think, finally someone gets it? And if you're finding value in this deep dive into the INFJ experience, smash that like button. It helps other rare souls find this content and realize they're not alone in their experience. Also, I'm building something special for our INFJ community. If you want to connect with other INFJs, share experiences, and get additional resources, check the description box for our private community link. It's a safe space for depth, authenticity, and real connection. Now, the next 8 signs we're about to explore might be even more eye-opening. We're going to talk about the INFJ relationship patterns that confuse everyone, the creative bursts that come out of nowhere, and the one sign that nearly every INFJ experiences but rarely talks about. Ready to go deeper? Let's continue this journey of self-discovery. Sign 8, the all-or-nothing relationship pattern. Sign number 8 explains why your relationships confuse people. You're either all in or all out, with very little middle ground. When you connect with someone, you connect deeply. You want to know their dreams, fears, childhood memories, and philosophical beliefs. You're ready to support them through anything. share your deepest thoughts, and build something meaningful together. But here's what others don't understand. This intensity isn't because you're clingy or needy. It's because surface-level relationships actually drain you more than deep ones. You'd rather have 3 close friends than 30 acquaintances. Let me share Jason's story. He's an INFJ who told me, "I confused so many people in college. I'd meet someone, have one deep conversation, and suddenly I wanted to hang out all the time and talk about everything. People thought I was being too intense too fast, but I wasn't trying to rush anything. I was just being authentic." This all-or-nothing pattern shows up in romantic relationships too. You probably fall hard and fast when you meet someone who matches your depth. Struggle with casual dating because you want meaningful connection. Get labeled as too serious or moving too fast. Have difficulty maintaining relationships that stay surface level. Would rather be alone than in a shallow relationship. The challenge is learning that not everyone processes connection the way you do. Some people need time to warm up, to build trust gradually. Your intensity isn't wrong, but timing and awareness can help. You build the deep connections you crave without overwhelming others. Try this. When you meet someone you really click with, resist the urge to share everything immediately. Think of it like slowly turning up the intensity. Dial instead of jumping straight to maximum. This gives others time to match your depth. Your desire for deep connection isn't a flaw, it's a gift. The world needs people who are willing to go beyond small talk and build real relationships. Don't dim your depth. Just learn to reveal it gradually. Have you ever been told you're too intense in relationships? How did that make you feel? Share your experience. This community understands the struggle of being deep in a shallow world. Sign 9, the creative explosion cycle. Sign number 9 might explain those mysterious bursts of creativity that seem to come out of nowhere. The INFJ creative explosion cycle. You might go weeks feeling uninspired, blocked, or creatively empty. Then suddenly, like lightning striking, you're hit with a tsunami of ideas, inspiration, and creative energy. You stay up until 3 a.m. writing, painting, composing, or building something amazing. This isn't procrastination or inconsistency. This is how your creative mind works. INFJs often have what I call underground creativity. While it looks like nothing is happening on the surface, your subconscious is processing, connecting dots, and building something magnificent. Let me tell you about Sophie, an INFJ artist who struggled with this pattern for years. She told me, "I thought I wasn't a real artist because I couldn't create on command like other people seem to. I'd have these incredible creative bursts where I'd produce amazing work, then weeks of nothing. I felt like a fraud." But then Sophie learned to trust her process. She realized that her dormant periods weren't wasted time. They were incubation periods where her mind was preparing for the next creative explosion. Your creative cycle probably looks like this. Absorption phase. You're taking in information, experiences, and inspiration without actively creating. Incubation phase. Your subconscious is processing and connecting ideas. Explosion phase. Everything comes together in a burst of creative output. Integration phase. You refine and polish what you've created. Rest phase. You recharge before the cycle begins again. Understanding this cycle can transform your relationship with creativity. Instead of forcing yourself to be creative every day, learn to recognize where you are in the cycle and work with it, not against it. If you're a creative INFJ who struggles with consistency, you're not broken. Your creative process is just different. Some of the world's greatest artists, writers, and innovators worked in similar cycles. Keep a creative capture journal. During your absorption and incubation phases, jot down random thoughts, observations, and ideas. When your explosion phase hits, you'll have raw material to work with. Are you a creative INFJ? What does your creative cycle look like? Do you have explosion periods followed by dormant phases? Share your pattern in the comments. You might help another creative INFJ understand their process better. Sign 10, the future anxiety spiral. Sign number 10 might be the most challenging INFJ trait. Your ability to see multiple future possibilities can create overwhelming anxiety spirals. Your intuitive mind is constantly running what-if scenarios. While this helps you prepare and make good decisions, it can also trap you in cycles of anxiety about things that may never happen. Here's how it works. You're planning a simple dinner with friends, but your mind starts spinning. What if they don't like the restaurant I chose? What if the conversation gets awkward? What if Sarah brings up that topic that makes Mike uncomfortable? What if they think I'm boring? What if this ruins our friendship? Suddenly, a simple dinner feels overwhelming because you're not just planning for one. Scenario. You're mentally preparing for dozens. Kevin, an INFJ in his 30s, shared this with me. I got a new job offer, which should have been exciting. But instead of celebrating, I spent 3 weeks spiraling through every possible way it could go wrong. What if I wasn't qualified? What if my new coworkers didn't like me? What if the company failed? What if I made the wrong choice? By the time I accepted the offer, I was exhausted from anxiety about things that hadn't even happened yet. This future anxiety spiral affects major life decisions. Career moves become paralyzing because you see all possible negative outcomes. Relationships feel risky because you can envision all the ways they might end. Creative projects stall because you imagine all possible criticisms. Social situations feel overwhelming because you pre-live every awkward moment. This happens because your intuitive mind is trying to protect you. By preparing for every possibility, it's actually a survival mechanism, but in our modern world it can become overwhelming. Here are some techniques that help. The 3-scenario rule. Instead of imagining 20 possible outcomes, limit yourself to 3, best case, worst case, and most likely case. This satisfies your need to prepare without overwhelming yourself. The reality check. Ask yourself, am I preparing for the future or living in imaginary problems? If it's the latter, gently redirect your attention to the present moment. The action step. For each worry, identify one concrete action you can take. This transforms anxiety into empowerment. If you struggle with future anxiety spirals, you're not being irrational. Your mind is actually trying to help you by preparing for possibilities. The key is learning to harness this ability without letting it control you. What future scenario do you find yourself worrying about most often? Career? Relationships? Health? Share in the comments. Sometimes naming our fears helps reduce their power over us. Sign 11. The lone wolf who craves belonging. Sign number 11 captures one of the deepest INFJ struggles. You're fiercely independent but desperately want to belong somewhere. This contradiction runs to your core. You value your autonomy, your unique perspective, your ability to think and feel deeply. You don't want to conform or lose yourself in a group. But at the same time, you have this profound longing to find your people, those rare souls who truly understand you. You've probably spent years feeling like an outsider looking in school, at work, in social groups, even in your own family. You might feel like you're speaking a different language than everyone else. Let me share Emma's story. She told me I spent my 20s joining different groups, trying to find where I belonged. Book clubs, hiking groups, professional organizations, spiritual communities. I kept thinking, maybe this will be the place where I finally fit in. But everywhere I went, I felt like I was wearing a mask, pretending to be someone I wasn't just to belong. The struggle is real, because your need for belonging conflicts with your need for authenticity. You want to be accepted, but not if it means hiding who you really are. Here's what makes this especially challenging for INFJs. You can adapt to almost any social situation, but doing so drains you. You're good at making others feel understood, but rarely feel understood yourself. You can connect with people on their level, but they can't always connect with you on yours. You're simultaneously attracted to and exhausted by group dynamics. But here's what I've learned from interviewing hundreds of INFJs. Belonging doesn't mean finding a group where you fit perfectly. It means finding people who appreciate your uniqueness and create space for your authentic self. Your tribe isn't necessarily other INFJs, though that can be part of it. Your tribe is made up of people who value depth over surface conversation, appreciate your insights and intuition, give you space to recharge without taking it personally. Understand that your intensity comes from care, not neediness. See your sensitivity as a strength, not a weakness. Stop trying to fit in and start looking for places where you can belong as yourself. This might be online communities centered around your interests or values, small, intimate gatherings rather than large social events, mentoring relationships where your wisdom is valued, creative collaborations with like-minded individuals, volunteer work aligned with your values. Remember, you don't need to belong everywhere. You just need to belong somewhere, and that somewhere exists. Sometimes you have to create it yourself. Where have you felt most like yourself? Where have you experienced true belonging? Share your story. It might help another lone wolf find their pack. Sign 12, the human lie detector. Sign number 12 might make you question your sanity sometimes. You can detect lies and inauthenticity with frightening accuracy. This goes beyond just knowing when someone is outright lying. You can sense when someone is being fake, when they're saying what they think you want to hear, when they're hiding something important, or when they're not being true to themselves. Your internal authenticity radar is so finely tuned that you pick up on micro-expressions, vocal inflections, body language inconsistencies, and energy shifts that reveal when someone isn't being genuine. Mark, an INFJ therapist, shared this with me. Clients would come in and tell me they were doing fine after a major life event. Everything about their words said fine. But their energy, their posture, the way they avoided eye contact, everything screamed that they were falling apart. I learned to trust my radar more than their words, and it made me a better therapist. This lie detection ability shows up in all areas of life. Job interviews where you immediately know if a company culture claim is genuine. Dating situations where you sense someone isn't over their ex, even if they say they are. Friendships where you know someone is struggling despite their cheerful facade. Sales situations where you can instantly tell if someone actually believes in their product. But this gift comes with a heavy burden. Sometimes you wish you couldn't see through people's masks. Sometimes you want to believe the comfortable lies. Instead of facing uncomfortable truths, you might find yourself in situations where you know someone is being dishonest, but you can't prove it. This can make you feel crazy or paranoid, especially when others don't see what you see. Let me tell you something important. Your lie detector isn't broken, and you're not paranoid. Multiple studies have shown that highly intuitive people are significantly more accurate at detecting deception than the average person. This ability creates some difficult situations. Do you call someone out when you know they're lying but can't prove it? How do you maintain relationships with people you know are being inauthentic? Should you trust your instincts even when logic says otherwise? Here's what experienced INFJs have taught me. Trust your radar, but don't always act on it immediately. Sometimes people lie to protect themselves or others. Show compassion. Use your detection ability to protect yourself, not to judge others. Remember that everyone has different comfort levels with vulnerability. Your lie detection ability is actually a protective mechanism. It helps you identify people who might not be safe to trust with your authentic self. Honor this intuition. Have you ever known someone was lying but couldn't prove it? Were you later proven right? How do you handle this ability? Share your experiences. This community understands the burden of seeing too clearly. Sign 13, the energy vampire magnet. Sign number 13 might explain why you're exhausted all the time. You're a magnet for energy vampires, and you might not even realize it. Energy vampires are people who consistently drain your emotional and mental energy. They're not necessarily bad people, but they're people who take more than they give in relationships, leaving you feeling depleted. Here's why INFJs attract energy vampires like magnets. You're naturally empathetic and willing to listen. You give excellent advice and emotional support. You rarely complain or set boundaries. You make others feel understood and validated. You often prioritize others' needs over your own. Picture this. Your phone rings, and you see it's that friend who only calls when they have problems. Your heart sinks because you know the next hour will be spent listening to the same complaints you've heard dozens of times, offering advice that won't be taken, and absorbing their stress and negativity. But you answer anyway because you care and because you feel guilty saying no. Lisa, an INFJ social worker, told me, I realized I was surrounded by energy, vampires both at work and in my personal life. My clients needed my emotional support. That was my job. But then I'd go home to friends and family who also needed constant emotional support. I was giving and giving until I had nothing left for myself. You might be dealing with energy vampires if certain people's calls or texts make you feel dread. You feel emotionally drained after spending time with specific individuals. Someone always has a crisis that requires your immediate attention. You find yourself being someone's unpaid therapist repeatedly. People seek you out for support, but rarely check on your well-being. The challenge for INFJs is that your empathy makes it hard to recognize energy vampires. You think they're going through a hard time, or they need me, or I'm being selfish for wanting space. But here's the truth. Healthy relationships have balance. If you're always the giver and someone else is always the taker, that's not a relationship. That's an energy transfusion. Boundary setting. Start small. Say, I care about you, but I need to recharge tonight. Or, I can listen for 15 minutes. Then I need to go. Energy audit. Keep track of how you feel before and after spending time with different people. You'll quickly identify the energy vampires. Support reciprocity. Pay attention to whether people check on you. Celebrate your wins or offer support when you need it. The airplane oxygen rule. You can't help others if you're depleted. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Protecting your energy doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a healthy person who can continue to help others sustainably. Have you identified energy vampires in your life? How do you protect your energy while still being a caring person? Share your strategies. We can all learn from each other. Sign 14, the overthinking analyzer. Sign number 14 hits every INFJ deeply. You analyze everything to death, especially conversations and interactions. Your mind is like a supercomputer that never shuts off. After every social interaction, conversation, or important event, you replay it dozens of times, analyzing every word, every tone, every facial expression. You might spend an hour analyzing a 2-minute conversation, wondering, what did they really mean when they said that? Did I say something wrong? Were they being sarcastic or sincere? Should I have responded differently? What were they thinking but not saying? Here's a scenario every INFJ will recognize. You send a text message to someone. They usually respond quickly, but this time it takes them 3 hours. Your mind immediately starts spinning. Are they mad at me? Did I say something wrong in my last message? Maybe they're busy, but they usually respond even when busy. What if they're ignoring me on purpose? Should I send a follow-up? But what if that seems needy? David, an INFJ entrepreneur, shared this. I had a business meeting where everything seemed to go well. The client was nodding, asking questions, seemed engaged. But afterward, I spent 3 days analyzing every micro-expression, convinced I'd missed some crucial sign that they weren't interested. Turns out they loved the proposal and signed the contract. But I tortured myself for days over nothing. Your overthinking isn't a character flaw. It's your intuitive mind trying to gather and process information to understand situations deeply. The problem is that sometimes there isn't deeper meaning to analyze. Something happens, conversation, interaction, event. Your mind starts analyzing and finding patterns. You generate multiple interpretations. You worry about negative possibilities. You replay and reanalyze. You create anxiety about things that might not even be real. The 24-hour rule, give yourself 24 hours to process an interaction, then consciously choose to let it go if no new information emerges. The evidence test. Ask yourself, what concrete evidence do I have for this interpretation? Often you'll realize you're building castles in the air. The direct communication. Instead of analyzing someone's behavior, sometimes just ask them directly, hey, you seemed quiet yesterday. Everything okay? The analysis time limit. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Allow yourself to analyze during that time, then move on to something else. Your analytical mind is actually a gift. It helps you understand people and situations deeply. The key is learning when to use this superpower and when to give it a rest. Instead of seeing overthinking as a weakness, recognize it as your mind's way of caring deeply about relationships and outcomes. You analyze because you care, because you want to understand, because you want to do better. What's the most you've ever overthought a simple interaction? Did your analysis turn out to be accurate? Or were you creating problems that didn't exist? Share your story sometimes. Laughing about our overthinking helps reduce its power. Sign 15, the misunderstood mystic. And now we reach sign number 15, perhaps the most profound INFJ trait. You often feel like a mystic living in a mundane world. You have experiences that are hard to explain to others. Prophetic dreams, strong intuitive hits, sensing energy in places, knowing things without knowing how you know them, feeling connected to something larger than yourself. But you live in a world that values logic, proof, and concrete evidence. So you might hide these experiences, or worse, doubt them yourself. Sarah, an INFJ artist, shared this profound experience. I had a dream about my grandmother the night before she died. In the dream, she was young and healthy, and she told me she was going on a journey and wanted to say goodbye. I woke up with this overwhelming sense of peace and love. 6 hours later, my mom called to tell me Grandma had passed peacefully in her sleep. I wanted to share this beautiful experience with my family, but I was afraid they'd think I was crazy or making it up. So I kept this profound moment of connection to myself. You might have experienced dreams that later come true or provide important messages, walking into places and immediately sensing their energy or history, knowing who's calling before you look at your phone, feeling deep connections to nature, animals, or spiritual practices, having downloads of information or inspiration that seem to come from nowhere, sensing the presence of deceased loved ones, experiencing synchronicities that feel too meaningful to be coincidence. The challenge is that these experiences can be isolating. Our culture doesn't have much room for mystery, for knowing without proving, for trusting intuition over logic. You might have learned to keep these experiences to yourself, or to doubt them when they happen. But for INFJs, these mystical moments are often the most meaningful and validating experiences of your life. Interestingly, research in neuroscience is beginning to validate some of these experiences. Studies show that highly intuitive people have different brain patterns, stronger connections between brain hemispheres, and enhanced pattern recognition abilities. Your mystical experiences aren't delusions or wishful thinking. They're part of your INFJ gift package. You're naturally tuned into subtleties that most people miss. You're picking up on information through channels that science doesn't fully understand yet. If you've had experiences that others might not understand or believe, trust them. Your inner knowing is valid. Your mystical experiences are real and meaningful. Even if you can't prove them to others, keep a journal of your intuitive hits and mystical experiences. Find communities, online or offline, where these experiences are welcomed. Don't feel obligated to prove or explain your experiences to skeptics. Trust your inner knowing, even when others don't understand. You're not weird, crazy, or delusional. You're an INFJ, a rare soul with access to dimensions of experience that most people never encounter. Honor this gift. Have you had mystical or unexplainable experiences? Have you learned to trust your intuitive knowing? Share your story if you feel comfortable. This community honors and validates these profound experiences. Conclusion and integration. We've journeyed through all 15 signs together, and if you're an INFJ, you're probably feeling a mix of relief, validation, and maybe even some emotional overwhelm right now. It can be intense to see yourself so clearly reflected back, to finally have words for experiences you thought were just your weird thing. Take a moment to breathe and let this sink in. Here's what I want you to understand. Every single one of these traits that might have made you feel weird, broken, or too much, they're actually superpowers. The world needs your emotional depth, your intuitive insights, your search for meaning, your ability to see what others miss. You're not just 1 to 3% of the population by accident. You're here for a reason. In a world that often feels shallow, you bring depth. In a world that often feels disconnected, you bring authentic connection. In a world that often feels meaningless, you're constantly seeking and creating meaning. If you recognize yourself in these 15 signs, I want you to know, you're not too sensitive. You're appropriately sensitive for the work you're here to do. You're not too intense. You're intense enough to create real change. You're not too much. You're exactly what the world needs more of. Now that you understand yourself better, honor your energy patterns. Work with your natural rhythms instead of against them. Set boundaries. Protect your emotional energy like the precious resource it is. Find your tribe. Seek out people who appreciate your depth and authenticity. Trust your intuition. Your inner knowing is more accurate than you realize. Embrace your contradictions. You're beautifully complex, not confusingly broken. You're not alone in this journey. In the description below, you'll find links to our INFJ community where you can connect with other rare souls who truly understand you. Share your experiences without judgment. Get additional resources for INFJ growth and self-understanding. Participate in deeper discussions about the INFJ experience. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Which of these 15 signs resonated most deeply? What's one thing you'll do differently now that you understand yourself better? What would you say to other INFJs who are just discovering their type? Drop your answers in the comments. Your insights might be exactly what another INFJ needs to hear today. If this video helped you understand yourself better, please share it with someone who might need this validation too. Every INFJ deserves to know they're not alone and they're not broken. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'm creating more content specifically for INFJs and other rare personality types who need to know they belong in this world exactly as they are. Remember, your rarity isn't a burden, it's a gift. The world needs your unique perspective, your deep heart, your intuitive wisdom. Don't hide your light. Don't dim your intensity. Don't apologize for being exactly who you are. You're an INFJ, one of the rarest and most needed souls on this planet. Now go out there and shine. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, keep honoring your beautiful, complex, wonderfully INFJ self.